Okay, let's get started. Thank you for joining us today to talk about how to manage and motivate your remote teams. Firstly, I want to introduce you to Trader Interactive. You may know us through RV Trader, Commercial Truck Trader, or Cycle Trader, but some of our other brands include Next Truck, Rock and Dirt, Equipment Trader, and more. The reason I mention this is because we are in the same position you find yourself in. We're all navigating a constantly evolving situation without being in one office space. We are adapting to remain successful while our teams and employees work remotely around the nation. My name is Shalynn Simmons, and I am the AVP of Sales here at Trader Interactive. In today's webinar, we're going to discuss the recent changes to workplace environments, some of the challenges that dealerships are facing when working remotely, and ways to effectively manage and motivate remote teams. I currently oversee all of our sales teams, both internally and in the field, so I understand the importance of making sure every sales representative is motivated to effectively do their job. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. In the modern work age, there are many resources and platforms designed to help dealerships perform remotely. Close to a quarter of the U.S. workforce already works from home, at least part of the time. However, in response to the uncertainties presented by COVID-19, the other 3/4 of U.S. companies have asked many of their employees to work remotely. These new policies leave many employees and their managers working out of the office and separated from each other for the first time. During times like these, where we all must do our part to ensure the health and safety of our employees and our consumers while still running a successful dealership, working remotely is essential. Understanding how to manage and motivate your team is an important part of having a successful dealership in general, but it's especially crucial in an economic environment like the one we're currently facing. It's important for managers to be aware of and understand the different factors that can make working remote challenging. By addressing these obstacles, you can then relate to your staff, alleviate some of the contributing factors, build a stronger and more motivated team, and continue to operate a successful dealership. Challenges inherent in remote work include lack of face-to-face supervision, lack of access to information, and social isolation and distractions. We'll take the next few minutes to explain these challenges, and then we'll focus on how to overcome them. Many managers feel the stress of not being able to have eyes on their employees, and therefore worry that employees will not work as hard or as efficiently. You may be worried that your dealership's leads won't be followed up with as quickly or as professionally as they would be if you and your team were in the office. The employees, however, struggle with reduced access to managerial support. They sometimes feel that their managers are out of touch with their needs and are not as helpful in getting their work done. Another challenge felt by employees and managers is the lack of access to information. One huge perk to working in a dealership environment with your coworkers and employees is that when you have a question or need information, you can walk over to that person and communicate with them face to face. When working remotely, you may be surprised by the added effort it takes to get such needed information. There is a lag time between emails, and even instant messaging and texting can have a delayed response. Your team may also feel that you don't have the right tools at home, making it harder for them to complete their assigned tasks that would normally be a breeze when in the office. Be sure to consider that you may need to assign more employees to your dealership's CRM during this time so that employees have access and can efficiently work while at home. Another challenge to consider that you and your employees will face are the effects of social isolation and distractions. Much like the outside contributing factors, employees' moods may be affected by feelings of isolation and loneliness because they don't have social interaction. For employees who live alone, thrive in group settings, or find motivation through collaboration and brainstorming, working remotely can hugely impact their mood and mental health. Although you might not think this is a big deal, they're still interacting with your consumers, and if they're not in a good space emotionally, you could absolutely impact how they are communicating with their customers. You wouldn't want a frustrated employee unknowingly taking these emotions out on a potential buyer. Also, your team may not have a workstation that maximizes productivity, and employees with pets or children may now face added distractions. While these are all likely challenges you and your employees will face during this time of working from home, you can still effectively manage and motivate your teams. Defining clear goals and setting specific guidelines can help alleviate the lack of face-to-face supervision. Having clear and consistent communication can reduce the frustration felt by the lack of access to information, and using digital tools and resources can reduce the feelings of social isolation and distractions. Not only will these solutions help your team's productivity, they'll help your team to effectively manage their workload in a remote environment so your dealership doesn't skip a beat during these uncertain times. Let's walk through each of these solutions in more detail. In order to effectively set goals and define clear guidelines, set SMART goals and continue to affirm your team along the way. What is a SMART goal? Each letter has meaning. Make a SMART goal specific. State exactly what needs to be accomplished. Make it measurable and celebrate the wins along the way. Make it achievable. Make it realistic so that it's relevant, and make it timely by setting a deadline. Let's walk through a few examples. Let's say service is an area where you are differentiating yourself from your competition during this time and offering specials like pickup and delivery. Set clear guidelines and expectations with your team around safe social distancing during test drives and rules around virtual walkthroughs if you're offering that. Give them a SMART goal that together you determine is attainable. For example, 2 virtual or in-person test drives per day or 10 per week. Have regular check-ins with your team to address any challenges or issues as well as successes. Or say another goal your dealership has is to reach out to previous customers. You assign an employee the task of emailing the customers who bought from you within the last 2 months to let them know about your sales and servicing updates. It's a list of 100 customers, and together with the employee, you determine that 10 emails sent a day is attainable. At the end of each day, you check with your employee to see how they're progressing, if there are any challenges or issues, and give them affirmation in the work they've done. When all of the emails are sent, celebrate that as a win. Give them recognition during your one-on-one meeting, but also give that employee a shout out on your team call. By establishing and communicating SMART goals and defining guidelines, you're helping ensure your employees feel supported and encouraged, that they're able to keep a pulse on the dealership and lead activity, and that you've eliminated the challenge associated with lack of face-to-face supervision. It's crucial to clearly and consistently communicate with your team in a remote environment. Creating trust, open communication, and the connections necessary for collaborative work relationships requires specific strategies and tools to be successful. And this includes communication to both your team and ensuring they're communicating well to your customers. Maybe you start sending a daily kickoff email each day. Much like morning meetings, a kickoff email can help you set the tone and build motivation with your team on a daily basis. You can include an inspirational quote, a fun video, or a silly gift. Anything that can be sent consistently that establishes open communication and sets the tone for a productive day. Maybe you send an inspiring quote with a theme for the day. Shout out your employees and their efforts or any wins that they've had. For example, congratulate your office manager for getting through invoices or your service department for their thorough work. You can also highlight new procedures and safety measures to help remind them how to stay safe during this time. Don't be afraid to let your humor show. Include funny memes to lighten the mood. And close out by reminding your team that you're always available to help them. It's also crucial that during this time you continue to have regularly scheduled team meetings. Keeping a weekly cycle of meetings can be extremely beneficial to you and your team. Here's an example of how you can schedule these per weekday. Monday, hold a performance meeting for the team that covers things like what was accomplished in the previous week, what needs to be done this week, and who is on point for each task. How can each person help each other with this week's commitments, and more. Tuesday through Thursday, have at least one individual meeting with each of your team members. To help motivate your employees, focus on helping them tackle challenges that are a slight stretch. You can also coordinate small group meetings in which employees can collaborate and tackle problems together. Friday, focus on reflection. Showcase any small and big wins. As a leader, set the example by asking people how they're feeling, where did they struggle with their motivation, and where did they thrive. By having clear and consistent communication demonstrated through sending daily kickoff emails and by having regularly scheduled meetings, you're not only motivating your team, but helping to keep tasks on track and managing projects remotely. And just because you're not physically together doesn't mean that you can't be together and do team building activities. Does a team member have a birthday or special occasion to celebrate? Get together on your meeting platform and still celebrate digitally with them. You can have gifts delivered and then have them open them up on screen together. One of our team members, Shauna, recently had a birthday. In preparation, her manager, Tracy, decorated her office background in order to celebrate during the team call. You can still have your team happy hours, team building exercises, and team celebrations, just virtually. This will help to keep the morale of the team up and to keep working hard and playing hard together. We all know the distractions happening at home. Your employees are having to juggle sharing their office space with their family, providing for their children, giving their pets attention, all while being a dedicated employee. It's important to help lead your team in creating a strong work-life balance. Instead of being frustrated by the background noise, encourage your team to share their families, pets, and makeshift office space with everyone. By acknowledging your employees' home life, you're not only helping to reduce the stress they're feeling, but you're helping to cultivate your team's relationships and show that you're all in this together. Now let's talk through how to ensure that your team is also clearly and consistently communicating with your customers and leads during this time. It is especially imperative in times like these that your team continue to interact with consumers in a timely, friendly, and professional manner. In order to capture and engage with as many potential buyers as possible, you must make sure that you're using digital communication channels and that you have someone assigned to them to make sure no leads are missed or unanswered. For starters, make sure you've updated your automated emails and voicemails to mention any new policies or business hours that may impact them. Ensure calls are forwarded to the correct staff member and that every incoming customer or lead is still being followed up with. Ensure that you're enabling customers and leads to connect with your dealership in various ways, through your website, on your listings, via email, phone calls, social media, messages, chat messages, and text messages. And if you haven't expanded your communication channels to include things like texting, live chat, or video chat, now is the time to do so while so many people are turning to virtual communication. Again, if any of your business hours have changed, be sure that they're communicated clearly to your staff and displayed on all channels. No matter which digital communication channel you have available within your dealership, some general best practices to keep in mind are to designate the right people from your team to respond to customers. Keep responses timely. Be professional, helpful, and informative. Use correct grammar in all responses, and to answer all questions in your conversation. I have a personal story that I want to share with you to help you understand just how important these best practices are. One of my coworkers was shopping for a new car, and she was texting the dealership about the car that she had fallen in love with online. While she was asking for more information around safety features, the sales rep's responses started to get a little too casual. He started responding to her with things like, "Oh girl, I got you," but wasn't directly answering her questions or concerns. Needless to say, she went with another car from a different dealership because she was so turned off by their text conversation. So keep it professional and to the point. You can be friendly while staying helpful. And lastly, it's important for you and your team to take advantage of digital tools and resources so your day-to-day operations continue on. There are several platforms that allow for you to have virtual meetings and conference calls to help fill the desire for in-person, face-to-face meetings. These can be used both internally within your team and externally to communicate with customers. If you're not already using a digital meeting place, both internally with your team or even externally with your customers, there are several platforms that allow for free conference call meetings, each of which have video capabilities. In most cases, after you create an account, you can start a meeting by scheduling the call, then sending email invites. They will receive an email with a meeting link and any other instructions needed to join. Any of these listed are extremely user-friendly and great for continuing team meetings as well as virtual celebrations. Also ensure that you and your team are regularly checking your lead management platform. As the situation is constantly evolving and new guidelines are being sent every day, it is extremely important that you analyze dealer reporting available to you and make strategic decisions around them. You can do that by following lead management best practices, which includes analyzing reporting available to you from third-party sites. Be sure you're regularly checking your performance around connections and other important metrics. Understand your exposure by regularly checking your impressions, page views, and listing performance. And be sure to keep up with the industry insights for top models and buying cycle stages so you can keep your listings current. Okay, let's do a quick recap of the ways to effectively manage and motivate your remote teams. Set smart goals and define clear guidelines to manage and motivate. Have clear and consistent communication with your teams and your customers. And use digital tools and resources from third parties to ensure success in a virtual environment. If you want a deeper dive into any of the best practices covered today, or if you want more information around digital tools, resources, and services we offer dealers that can help you and your team, feel free to reach out to us at marketing@traderinteractive.com. Thank you.